Welcome to Public Forum, a community outreach program produced at North Idaho College on the shores of Lake Coeur d'Alene. Featuring guests from around the globe addressing a wide variety of subjects, Public Forum serves to educate and enlighten. Please join host and moderator, political scientist Tony Stewart, in welcoming today's guest.
Welcome to today's program. We have a very, very important guest today, and a subject that's been on many people's minds in our country and around the world, and that has to do with the conditions in Sudan. And you know that hundreds of thousands of people have lost their lives in violence there in recent years. Our very distinguished guest, his name is Francis Bach. He is a native of southern Sudan, and in 1986, at the age of just 7 years old, he was captured and enslaved during an Arab militia raid on his village, and for 10 years he was a slave in northern Sudan. Fortunately, he was able to escape, and after somewhat of a detailed process, he fortunately was able to come to the United States, where he now lives, and he has had wonderful success with a book he's written that we highly recommend called Escape from Slavery, and he's met with President George W. Bush. He has testified before the United States Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and he's met many members of Congress, and he also appeared in 2000 with Coretta Scott King at a very special program. Mr. Bach, it's a pleasure to welcome you to our state of Idaho and to our program.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here.
And I'm very pleased to have our regular panelist, Janelle Burke, who's an attorney in the state of Idaho, and a very special panelist today, Michelle Fink, who is the president of the Human Rights Education Institute in Coeur d'Alene, and she's also a board member of the Kootenai County Task for Human Relations, and she's responsible for today's guest, and we thank her very much. And with that, Janelle will commence the questioning.
Welcome to our program and to North Idaho. It's an honor to have you here, and I know our viewing audience is going to be very interested in what you have to say. Your life must have changed dramatically when you were 7 years old. Tell us about how many people have that kind of thing happen to them.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me. This is such a great moment for me, I say it. It's a great moment to be in the United States, a great moment to be in a free land. Because my people are dying to be free human beings, and I am thoroughly appreciative of everything that I'm gaining today in the United States and what I do on behalf of my people. This means a lot to me when people ask me how my life has changed as a little boy, living like those kids in the United States or Western nation who live with privileged family and who had wonderful life with their parents and happy about what they have and what they do. And my life was great, just a little before I was captured and taken into slavery to northern Sudan to work for an Arab master as a slave. I was living with my parents who loved me, who provide me with everything that we need. We never complained. We had everything to eat, and we have wonderful life. But my life was interrupted by these militiamen, the Arab tribes. They're now so-called Janjaweed in the new war in Darfur. We call them Arab Bagar or Arab militia or Murahalin, who get supplied by the Sudanese government and sending them to the southern Sudan part to kill our people, to murder the men and capture women and children. So my life had dramatically changed afterward, after I've been captured and taken to slavery. I never lived the life I had before with my family. Of course, all 10 years, I was totally denied, dehumanized, treated less than animals. But today I'm happy, and that's why I give my appreciation in advance of your questions, how I'm really appreciative to be an American and being a free man once again. And that's why I'm doing this on behalf of millions who cannot speak for themselves or help themselves. And I'm here as a representative of Sudanese and representative of 27 million people around the world who are still in my position.
Michelle Fink.
Hi, thank you, Francis, for being here today. When you were taken into captivity, can you give us a daily routine, or what was your life like after you were taken by the Northern?
Well, after I was taken and made to be a slave and sleep with the animals and do work that I never get appreciated or thank you by the master or family members. I think I always say I had never had a good day or a good night. That when you meet with somebody, say, "Did you have a good day yesterday?" or "Did you have a good weekend last weekend?" I never had anybody come to me and ask me that sort of question, or even myself never realized it, that there's anything different than yesterday and last year and 5 years, before. My life was just. I think I don't have a word to describe my feeling and my survival at that moment when I was still in captivity. I woke up, just imagine being a young person, and you're the first one to wake up in the morning and last one to go to bed. That was my life routine. I would be, and I can ask questions. And I was forced to do the job that 10 or 20 people can do. And I was the only one forced to do it. And of course, I accept the offer because they threatened me with a gun. If I can't do the job, they will kill me or hurt me. And I met many other slaves, and I seen them, and I heard from them firsthand. They were also going through the same things. The same kids not from my village, but some other villages in southern Sudan, or the same tribes, Dinka tribes, the largest tribe in southern Sudan, or in Sudan. And they were doing the same jobs. So totally I was denied. I never asked questions. I never appreciate myself and appreciate being a real human being, because I never experienced that with this family.
Mr. Bach, in your book, which is a very powerful book, Escape from Slavery, which we highly recommend to our audience, and at our banquet tonight, you will have books there for our audience, but from the account I understand is that during your 10 years of being a slave, that you had to live in a little small, what we'd call a shack, and I believe you had to take care of the sheep and the cattle. Did you have interchange with anyone other than your master? Could you, you'd get up early and you'd work until late. Did you not have much contact with other human beings?
No, even though I see them. Of course, they have children who are my age, and some are younger and older. I never get to be allowed to live as they actually treated themselves. Being free at least a day or in the several hours to do things that you like to do and be able to communicate with people, chat with them, just normal talking. I never had sort of any good conversation with anybody from a family member.
Like in isolation, really?
Yes, I was absolutely isolated. All my friends were East Kettles, though I don't talk to them. They're the one that next to me always, because I was forced to sleep next to the animals, cows and horses and camels. And nobody really ever wanted to allow me just to live like them and ask questions and express my feeling, whatever that I see, good or bad. I was just isolated and denied not to speak for whatsoever.
And at times when they were unhappy, were you beaten?
Well, there's just a time that they send their children to beat me. There's a time that even my master himself would come and beat me. And I can ask that question. Because he told me, your purpose, the purpose that you're here with us is to do the job. And you have no question for whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And I learned from him, and I know how, when he talked to me, he demands what he says. Of course, I always fear about his wife. Her name's Hawa. She always grab her, favorite knife out of her kitchen and say, I will just kill you like a chicken. If my husband don't want to kill you, I will one day call my brother Musa and get rid of you. And she even warned me not to look at her. If she's passing by in any direction, she will tell me, look opposite. Please look, don't look at me. And if by mistake I did look at her, she would tell me not to move my head and come close to me and spit in my face.
You must have had times when you think that you would never be free again or that you wouldn't survive.
That was the kind of mixed feeling I had, but I also do have a positive feeling because I always believe in overcoming a situation. I've been privileged, to be honored by my father, who called me Muchoko in my native language, and Muchoko means 12 men. I remember my father used to call me that name, and one day when I came close to him and asked him why he called me Muchoko, 12 men, he says, you always come to me and share with me a fresh dream and fresh ideas, and always anticipate with me. You always want to be this and want to do this. And that's why I believe one day when you grow up, you will do something that 12 men can do. After I get it taken away from them, I still had that passion for my father. I dreamed that one day I will be a free man, one day I will be like my father, and one day I will be like Muchoko, 12 men.
So you never lost hope?
I never lost hope, and of course faith. My parents are Christians, and I remember when my mother trying to teach me Christianity. She always says, do you know when you're alone, you're not alone, God is with you. Jesus is watching you and guided you. And I believe that's true, because for 10 years, he guided me and he delivered me at the end.
Thank you very much. Janelle Burke.
You were enslaved for about 10 years with his family, is that correct? And during that time, this is kind of a multiple question here, during that time, did you know of other families who had people who were like you, who were also enslaved?
Yes, I spent 10 years in captivity with the same family. Yes, also I had met other slaves working with the neighbor people. I heard from them, I seen them, I learned from the master how they treat them. There's no difference the way they treat me with the family that was staying with them. There's not different job they do than the same job that I do, except girls. I never talk about them, women's. This is a place that there's no human rights, a place that there's no democracy. So people just do whatever. These dictator governments with these people just do whatever they feel is right for them, and it's unquestionable thing. You cannot ask question. So yes, I seen a lot of slaves, and they were doing the same job. And when I met few of the boys one day, it was about 4 of us together, and I asked them if we can escape as a group, and they refused my idea because not they don't want it to, but because they were fear that if they escape and got caught back by master or any family member or friend of theirs, they would be killed or hurt them. And this young boy that I knew, who I even today pray, still continue praying, and I hope that he's alive, is named Berjuk. Berjuk, first name and last name is the same, who his master cut off his left leg because one day he refused to do the job. And his master, one of the richest guy with the camels in the neighborhood. And he has this hundreds of them. And this young boy is the only one took care of them. And one day he was sick. He did not refuse because he's sort of tired or just want to take a day off. But he was sick. They can see it and smell it. And they didn't even allow him to stay home that day. And the boy says to his master, I'm not going to go today because I'm not feeling well. I'm very sick and I can't even walk. So they forced him, and the boy returned home alone. He left the camels alone, and soon he arrived home. Instead of his master shooting him, he cut off his left leg. And he told him that he was lazy kid and they're going to make him stay home. And my master obviously took me to that neighbor's home. There's a time I said something that he didn't like, and he said, you know what, I don't want you to complain to me because you do not have an excuse for whatsoever. He said, let's visit our neighbor, and when we went there, he said to me, talk to your cousin, or whatever you guys call each other, why he's hurt. That is sign of scaring me, or not to think about asking any question or doing anything. And I did learn exactly. When I came home, I started living double life. I work hard and I do everything. I never complain to them, but I was planning to escape.
Michelle.
Yeah, and that's my question. I know you tried to escape twice, one right after the other, and then about 3 years later, you finally did escape. So, and I know I read your book, so I know that's exactly what you did. You planned ahead, but can you kind of just give us what you were thinking, what happened when you tried to escape the first couple times, and then when you finally did escape when you were 17?
Well, after many years, maybe 4 years or so after, 7 years actually, after I lived with this family from age 7 to 14, I had learned so much from this family, not just from one single person, from my master himself, Jim Abdullah, or his wife Hawa, or family members, but from both, including the community. I learned from them, and I learned that these people will never, ever gonna allow me to live my life the way I want it. So I decided to escape. And it has been a plan and a dream for me to escape. And because I was too young to make that quick decision, it took me 7 years, until when I turned age 14, I first time asked 3 questions. And the reason I had 3 questions, they were very essential to me. And I was absolutely upset by the way these people treat me, and even the names they call me. And when I learned broken Arabic, I asked my master one evening, he was coming to bring me food. And before he returned, I asked him, I want to know why they called me Abid, black slave, and why they forced me to sleep with the animals, and why nobody loves me. He did not respond to my questions, but his response, he walked back and grabbed his favorite stick and he started beating me. He beat me, and then he says, if you ask me again questions, I will not even waste a minute, I will kill you. So I apologized to him, and I promised him I was never going to ask you a question again, until I realized that, this man, no matter what I would tell him or do to him, he was never going to appreciate me or even allow me to be free. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to escape. I learned that it is very scary to do so, but I did try. I tried my first attempt, because I'm the first one to wake up in the morning, and I just left the cows alone and I ran away, and I was caught by his cousin, and he beat me. He says that if you try to escape again, I will shoot you. But in my heart, I didn't give up. I said I'd rather die than be a slave, because I hate the way they treat me, and also the way they treat other slaves. I just stayed 2 days, and the second one, I made it just the following day. And I failed my second attempt as well. I think the time when I left, my master himself saw me, and he did not even stop me immediately. He allowed me to walk about a mile, and after that he got on his horse, and he took his gun with him. And when he came closer to me, he said, stop, and I stopped. He told me, sit down. I sat down, and lie down on your chest, and he tied my hands and my leg behind me, and he was dragging me home. And he beat me. After that, he pulled his gun and says to me, tonight is going to be the last day on the earth. And I thought that day he was going to kill me. If you ask me what happened, why he did not shoot me, I don't know. I just closed my eyes at that moment while he were talking to me, and his wife running around saying that I know how to shoot a gun. If you can shoot him, let me shoot him, or let me call my brother Musa. She was absolutely ready to see me being killed by her husband, because she always say, I don't want to see your face. We'd rather not having anybody to take our cattle than having you. Of course, Jimma allowed me there tied up for several hours until after he released me with a condition: if I try to escape again next time, he will kill me. I promised him that I will never going to escape again. And yes, I was absolutely scared. I waited for 3 more years until when I turned age 17, I finally made my decision, saying that I'm a grown-up man. I'm not a 7 years old or 14 years old anymore. I'm a grown-up man now, and I could defend myself. So I made my third attempt successfully, and with the help of a truck driver, we call it loader driver. He's a Northern Sudanese, and he's a Muslim. And this is something that's really maybe people, those who are open-minded and intellectuals can really, now that when I mention Arabs or mention Islam, I'm not entitling all Arabs are bad or all Muslims are bad, but I am anti-individuals. Individuals like Jim Abdullah, man who took my childhood away from me. Individuals, the Sudanese government. And some people sometimes misquote me, say I'm anti-Arabs or anti-Islam, because the man who rescued me, Abdul Rahman, he's a Northern Sudanese and he's a Muslim. And I'm glad and I'm very thankful for him that he rescued me, because otherwise I would have been in the United States.
You're very powerful, and you've been through remarkable things, and you have tremendous courage and hope. I want to say to our audience that you're associated with the American Anti-Slavery Group in Boston, and they're a wonderful organization that helps you get the message across, and your book does.
Yes.
I'd like for you to take this time. We have a large viewing audience over a large area, and would you take this time to tell the American people and the Canadians who we have in our viewing audience what the conditions are now and what they could do? I know that President Bush and prior to him President Clinton have both talked in very serious tones about the problems in Sudan. Tell us what the conditions are, and people are continuing to die, and what can the Canadians and Americans do to help change things in Sudan?
Well, this is such a great question, and I just want to take a quick, moment here to address all this audience by telling them, each and every one of us can make a difference, can truly make a difference. 9 years ago, almost, when I came to the United States in 1999, I never spoken language, English. I did not know anything about my future here. But year after that, less than a year, I started doing something. And I thought I was just doing for myself. And I thought I was just doing to people I'm related to. And I thought I was just doing even to the Southern Sudanese. But it became that something not just contributed to the Sudanese, but to the global world. Representing the 27 million people around the world. And I believe that the peace that come in my country is through a job that I have done, mobilizing a lot of Americans, and of course, I'm addressing two audience, you're Canadian and Americans, and I have been to Canada myself, and I always tell them that you have potential and you have a duty to help. You have a duty to say, because most people in America and Canada and other stabilized nation maybe say it's not our business. It's not happening in our country. It's not happening to the people that we know. But whatever happening in Africa or even in Sudan or any other country we may not know of, it's a matter to all of us. It's a matter to all of us. So I always say, don't ever say it's none of your business. This is your business. Because we all have common sense as human beings. And you have a duty to do whatever you can as individual by speaking out, involve yourself with good organizations that are doing good things. Today, Sudan is kind of mixed. In 2005, we have signed a peace agreement with the Sudanese government between the South Sudan rebels and the Sudanese government in Khartoum, whom we've been fighting from last 22 years, civil war, that cost the life of 2 million of our brothers and sisters. That's more than people that I heard were killed in Kosovo, Rwanda, Somalia, Bosnia, and Haiti combined. And yet the international community did not take action until very, very literally they have learned. Maybe after 9/11, and things start changing, and people began to learn after the example. It is not a great thing to see, like when America almost changed, and definitely changed on that day, September the 11th. And yes,
Go ahead.
I remember all America was shocked from the death of, innocent people who have nothing to do with politics, what's going on. But all people who die at the Twin Tower are just innocent people like us. And I remember second day after the attack, I was in New York, in Ground Zero. I think there's a picture of me on my book, was taken by my agent. And I talked to some New Yorkers saying that you are shocked today and surprised, and this is what we've been telling you, we the people of Southern Sudan. We'll be in front lines against this horrible jihad. The man who have made this big plan, Osama bin Laden, was in my country for 6 years, practicing what he had later done to you, and teaching his allies and colleagues there in Khartoum to continue killing us in the Southern Sudan. So, again, the message to the audience is to really consider themselves as a leaders. Each and every individual person that know that we all can make change. Change cannot come unless you change yourself. So that's my message. I hope that they will definitely urge the governments to take immediate action in Darfur today, because several thousand people are dying a week.
You're so powerful. Unfortunately, the clock is caught up with us. Time is up. But Mr. Francis Bach, you are powerful, and keep the message going, and I know it will make a difference. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest has been Francis Bach, who wrote the book Escape from Slavery, where he was in slavery for 10 years in Sudan. And we know it's been one of the more powerful programs we have done, and we hope that you will listen to this very powerful message from Mr. Bach, and that you'll be with us again next week at the same time, and we'll discuss yet another issue. Until then, please have a good week. I am Tony Stewart.
Recorded on the campus of North Idaho College, Public Forum is the longest-running in-house college production on PBS. Each episode is pre-recorded live and is an educational outreach from North Idaho College. Please join us at this same time next week for another edition of Public Forum on this public television station.